Hey friends! Welcome to the next Tranquility in a Bag take-home craft. This month, in honor of Earth Day, we're making recycled paper. In fact, we're making seed paper. I'm giving every one of you a free packet of wildflower seeds in your bag, so you can add that to the paper as you like. Now, since this requires a lot of big materials, I can't exactly give you everything, so we're providing the mold and decal, which is what you use to make the paper, a wee sponge, the seeds, and snacks. However, you guys are going to need to provide a wide, shallow bowl or pan, a clean dishcloth or beach towel, not a fluffy towel. That's not going to work. It's going to stick to it. You need something with really short fibers. And then finally, paper, obviously, to shred or cut up into small pieces. Now, this paper can be any color you want. If you want to have a fairly regular color paper, then I would recommend you use, notebook paper or just plain, computer paper. If you use recycled paper like out of your shredder, it's gonna look kind of gray. You can add dye to it if you want, and then if you recycle colored paper, it will be that color, albeit probably a little dull. Now, let's get started. Okay, so what we have here is a bunch of shredded paper that I've put in a plastic bin and covered with water. You don't need too much water, just enough to cover it. This is the size of paper that you really want to get. It is pretty small. You can use either a paper cutter or just plain old scissors, or as I did here, a shredder. And so I'm going to put a top on that, and we're going to wait 24 hours. All right, and we're back. So it's been 24 hours, and the paper's pretty mushy. So wear a t-shirt, we're going to get wet. The paper is basically falling apart now. There's still some structure, we want that, but it's pretty mushy. So what we're going to do is grab a handful of it, like so, and squeeze as much water as possible out of it, and then set it aside. You're going to do this for as much as you can possibly get. Just grab and squeeze. This would have been a lot easier if what I was using was wider and shorter, but this is what I had. The pans that you can purchase for like barbecue would be really good for this. So keep going until it gets kind of hard to get stuff. It's gonna get it's gonna get between your fingers and under your rings. So just watch out for that. So at this point, we need a tool. So I use the slotted spoon to get stuff off of the bottom. This stuff sinks. And we're just going to get the last few handfuls of what we can possibly get. And then we're going to dump the water out. This water's kind of gross, and we want to use fresh water for the next step. So as you can see, this is basically all I can get. All right, so we're going to take what we have, which is this pile of mush at the moment, and we're going to squeeze as much water as we can get out of it. So the water's kind of gross right now. We don't want that in our final product, and we want this to be dry. So just keep squeezing as much as you possibly can, and then set it aside. We're going to dump this water out. Be right back. Okay, so we have some clear water now, some clean water, and I've put some of the paper mixture back in. So this is what you do. You take a bit of it out, and you kind of break it up with your hands. Getting it wet helps, just until it's kind of mushy again, and then you're going to mix it into the water. So we're basically doing the reverse of what we did last time. This time the water's clean, and we can control how much is in the water. So now, after we clean off the dishcloth, we're going to take our mold and decal here. Yours is going to look like this. Mine has blue tape on it. It's because I cut it wrong. Don't worry about it. So we're going to take that, and we're going to dip it in our mixture. So down and under everything floating. Give it a little wiggle as you pull up. And we're going to wait for the paper to drain. So we want as much water drained out of this paper mixture as possible. So as that drains, take the stuff that's going to be on the outside and either put it in or put it back in the water, your choice. It does need to drain a lot, and we want it to be dry. What will help that is the sponge. So we're going to hold it at this point, and we're going to press the sponge onto the paper mixture directly. This will press water out of the back and soak up water from the front. All right, so now we're going to take the sponge and squeeze as much water as possible out of this. So press the sponge. Don't press too hard. You don't want any of the paper mixture coming up onto the sponge. But squeeze as much as you can. And then, as you go, the little pieces around the edge will start to become more apparent, so you can remove those. There we go. So now we're going to flip it over onto the dishcloth right here. So I'm going to move the bin so you can see a little better. We're going to move that over. So with this specific mold and decal, all you're going to do is flip it over. We're going to pat the back a little, but it's not really necessary this time. It's fine. So now we're going to take the sponge again, and we're going to press the water out of this side. There is still water in this, I promise. You're going to want this as dry as possible, especially the edges, or else you're not going to be able to pull it up off of the dishcloth once it's dry. Once you get the edges dry enough, you'll be able to flip it over, which is usually really good during the drying process. So we're going to dry it a little more, press as hard as you can. All right, so let's make another one. So I'm going to move this over, bring the bin back. I don't know if you notice, there is a plastic tablecloth over the cloth one on my table. You should do this somewhere, put a towel under it or something, because there is a lot of water going around. So in and under, give it a wiggle, maybe put some extra in. We're going to let it drain. Pick the little extras off the side. Try not to put it too much to the side when you're letting it drain, because the slurry will move and then you'll have kind of an unbalanced piece of paper. But I'm doing this so you guys can see it on the camera. So we're going to get it as dry as possible from this direction. And there we go. All right, there we go. So now we're going to flip it over and press it down a little bit, tap the back. And come on. Sometimes you need a little bit more force. There we go. All right. So now we're going to take the sponge and dry it a bit more, focusing primarily on the edges, just so we know we'll be able to flip it over later. There we go. So I made a total of 9. That was not as much as I could. So as you can see, now that it's dried a little bit, you can pick it up and kind of manipulate it, flip it over. They are not dry yet. These will probably need to dry for about 24 hours. But then you can do what you want with them. Happy Earth Day. If you want more videos like this, like and subscribe. Have a great day, guys.